Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something really important, the global market for treating pediatric neuroblastoma. You shared a very recent 2025 report with us, and our goal here, as always, is to kind of sift through it and pull out the really crucial insights for you.
Exactly. It's a dense report, for sure.
Sure.
So we've done the legwork to highlight the key numbers, the trends, who's involved,
Yeah.
basically what you need to know without getting totally bogged down.
Okay, so just for a little context, neuroblastoma, it's a cancer that starts in very early nerve cells, often in the adrenal glands. But we're not focusing so much on the deep biology today. It's more about the market, the economics surrounding the treatments.
Right, the business side of things.
Yeah. We want to understand, okay, how big is this market now? Where's it heading? What treatments are key? Where are they being used? And who are the big companies?
And this report, this 2025 report, really gives us that full picture.
Mhm.
Market size, forecast, trends, who the competitors are, regional breakdowns. It's all in there.
All right, let's get straight to the numbers then. The report says for 2025, the global market value is $261.6 million.
Which is, yeah, a pretty significant number already. It shows how serious this condition is and the resources going into it.
Definitely, but it's the growth projection that really caught my eye.
Oh, yeah, that's quite something.
By 2033, they're forecasting it'll reach $4,812.79 million.
Wow. So more than doubling in, what, 8 years?
Exactly, that kind of growth. I mean, what does that signal to you?
Well, it signals accelerating demand, clearly. Probably a mix of better treatments becoming available, maybe better diagnosis, and just generally more focus on this specific childhood cancer. The compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, is pegged at 9.9%. That's a really strong, consistent expansion rate year over year.
And it's worth remembering, this isn't just pulled out of thin air. They used historical data from 2021 to 2024, with 2024 as the base year. So it's grounded.
Right. It has a basis in recent activity.
Okay, so what's driving that dollar value? What treatments are we talking about? The report splits it into three main types.
That's right. You've got immunotherapy, chemotherapy, and then a category just called others.
Others. Okay. What do we think is in others? Probably the more established stuff.
Yeah, I'd assume that includes things like surgery, radiation therapy, kind of the standard pillars alongside chemo. The report doesn't detail their growth in this snippet, but they're still a big part of the picture now.
But the spotlight seems to be on immunotherapy.
Definitely. It says even back in 2023, immunotherapy had a noticeable share. And looking forward, it's projected for significant growth.
Which fits the bigger picture in oncology, doesn't it? Using the immune system itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the potential is huge there, especially for neuroblastoma. Why is it so promising?
Well, compared to traditional chemo, it's often much more targeted, right? Which can mean fewer systemic side effects. And that's a massive deal when you're treating children. Precision matters.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that's the what. What about the where? Where are these treatments happening?
The report segments that too. Application areas.
Right. Hospitals, clinics, and again, another's category.
Others here. Maybe specialized outpatient centers. Or perhaps, some aspects moving towards home care, though that might be limited for complex treatments.
Could be. But the report really emphasizes the hospital segment. It says hospitals are expected to keep their top spot and expand at a significant KGR through 2033.
Well, yeah, that feels intuitive. Neuroblastoma treatment is often complex, requires intensive care, specialized teams.
Exactly. Hospitals have that infrastructure. Clinics might handle maybe follow-ups or less intensive parts of the therapy.
Probably. So the dominance of hospitals plus the growth in complex things like immunotherapy. It suggests the whole process is becoming perhaps more sophisticated, maybe more costly too.
That's a fair assumption.
Hmm.
Higher tech treatments often come with higher price tags, at least initially.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. What's actually pushing and pulling this market? The dynamics. The report outlines drivers first.
Yeah, and interestingly, the drivers aren't just about neuroblastoma itself. It points to the whole medical device and consumables industry expanding.
How so?
Well, factors like the global population getting older overall, even though this is pediatric, the overall healthcare system trends matter. Plus, just more healthcare spending worldwide, and in many places, regulations that are actually supportive of new medical tech.
Ah, okay. So wider healthcare tailwinds are helping lift this specific market too. Makes sense.
Yeah, it creates a generally positive environment for growth.
But it's not all smooth sailing. There are restraints mentioned too. Challenges.
Always are. And these are pretty significant. Getting new cancer drugs approved, that involves really strict regulatory hurdles. It takes time, costs a lot.
Right. The R&D itself is incredibly expensive for these complex diseases.
Exactly. And then you layer on things like supply chain issues, getting the drugs and devices where they need to be reliably, and, geopolitical uncertainty can throw a wrench in the works too.
So high barriers to entry, high costs, external risks. That paints a realistic picture, but then there are opportunities.
Absolutely. Big ones. Think about emerging markets as healthcare improves there. There's huge potential for growth.
More access to these advanced treatments.
Precisely. Also collaborations. We're seeing more partnerships between traditional healthcare companies and, say, tech firms. That could lead to some really innovative diagnostics or treatment planning tools.
Interesting, like using AI maybe?
That's definitely part of it. And another opportunity mentioned is sustainability.
Sustainability. In medical devices, how does that play in?
Yeah, things like greener manufacturing for pharmaceuticals or devices designed for easier recycling or disposal. It's becoming a factor both for cost and corporate responsibility. Resonates with stakeholders.
Fascinating. Okay, and beyond those broader dynamics, what about specific trends within the neuroblastoma market itself?
This is where it gets really cutting edge. The report highlights the adoption of AI and machine learning.
We just touched on that. How might that apply here?
Well, think about diagnostics AI, helping analyze scans maybe, or treatment planning optimizing protocols based on vast amounts of data. Also, personalized medicine.
Tailoring treatment to the individual kid's tumor genetics.
Exactly. That's a huge trend, moving away from one size fits all. And as we mentioned, that drive for sustainability is also listed as a key trend within the sector.
So the future looks more targeted, more tech-driven, hopefully more effective.
That's the goal, right?
Now, geographically, where is all this happening? The report breaks it down by region.
Yep, the standard five: North America, Europe, Asia Pacific, Latin America, and then Middle East and Africa.
And it dives into specific countries within those.
It does. So North America includes the U.S., Canada, Mexico. Europe covers the U.K., France, Germany, and others. Asia Pacific looks at China, Japan, South Korea, etc.
And while we don't have the exact market shares for each region from this excerpt, just knowing the scope tells us it's a pretty thorough analysis. They look at revenue share, current trends, and all those places.
Yeah, that regional detail is crucial. You need to know where the demand is concentrated now and where future growth might come from. Things like, disease prevalence, healthcare infrastructure, regulations, economic factors. They all vary by region.
Okay, let's talk about the companies, the competition. Sounds like a busy space. The report calls it highly competitive.
No surprise there. Especially in a growing field within pharma and medtech.
Yeah.
The top players are apparently quite active strategically.
Doing what, mainly? What are their strategies?
Well, launching new products is a big one. Better diagnostics, new drugs, AI tools like we discussed. Also, M&A mergers and acquisitions, buying other companies to get their tech or market access.
Standard pharma playbook stuff.
Pretty much. Plus, strategic partnerships, teaming up to share costs or expertise, and of course, getting those all-important regulatory approvals for new stuff. That's always key.
Does it name names? Who are some of these key players?
It does list a few. Let's see, United Therapeutics, Apeiron Biologics, Pfizer, Bayer, Baxter, Selector Biosciences, Macrogenics, quite a mix.
Some big household names in there and some more specialized players.
Right. And it also mentions there are lots of second and third tier companies involved too, even if they're not listed here. So it's a crowded field, which probably helps drive innovation, that competitive pressure.
Makes sense. One last area the report touches on external factors, things outside the immediate market.
Yeah, this was interesting. Apparently, the full report analyzes the impact of Trump's tariff war. The excerpt doesn't say what the impact was, just that it's discussed.
Huh. A reminder that global trade politics can ripple out everywhere, even into specialized healthcare markets.
Definitely shows how interconnected things are. And predictably, it also looks at COVID-19's impact.
Right. What did it find there? Supply chain chaos.
Yeah. Supply chain adjustments were definitely part of it, like everywhere else. But interestingly, it also notes that the pandemic spurred more investment in digital health.
Ah, like telehealth, remote monitoring. Could that apply even in complex care like this?
Potentially, for certain aspects, maybe follow-up consultations, monitoring some side effects remotely. It definitely accelerated that trend across the board.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Pulling it all together from this deep dive into the 2025 report, it paints a picture of a pediatric neuroblastoma treatment market that's, well, it's growing strongly.
Absolutely. We're looking at that projection hitting nearly $4.8 billion by 2033. That 9.9% annual growth is significant. And a lot of that seems fueled by immunotherapy gaining ground.
Right. Immunotherapy and the continued central role of hospitals as the main place for treatment delivery. Those are key takeaways.
Yeah. And despite those hurdles, tough regulations, high R&D costs, there are real opportunities. Emerging markets, tech collaborations, AI, personalized medicine.
Those trends are definitely shaping the future, and it's a very competitive landscape driving innovation.
And we can't forget those external factors like trade and, well, pandemics. That can influence things unexpectedly.
It really underlines the sheer scale of effort and money going into tackling this specific pediatric cancer. It's encouraging in a way, seeing that level of focus.
It is. It reflects the ongoing research and the drive for better outcomes for these kids.
Which leads us to maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on.
Given this major growth projected specifically for neuroblastoma treatments, what might that mean for innovation in pediatric oncology more broadly? How could these trends we've talked about, immunotherapy, AI, personalized medicine, start to influence the research and therapies for other childhood cancers down the line? Something to think about.